It's time for Gardening Inside Out, a live show offering you plant advice for any space in your life. Introducing your perennial hosts, David Bates and Josh Carey.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. It's Saturday morning. It's time for Gardening Inside Out, and what a day to do Gardening Inside Out, because you're going to be able to do any gardening you want, inside or outside, because today is going to be great, David Bates.
It's going to be an awesome day, and this is, after all, the day we have.
Yes.
So we might as well make the best of it. Let's go straight to the weather and get along with this day and see how you can best make your plans. Today, of course, is Saturday, the 6th of July. I hope everyone had a happy and safe 4th of July. Not the weekend, but kind of midweek.
Got most of them.
Yeah. Well, anyway, today is going to be partly cloudy. A high of only 91 degrees. So, that's a nice reprieve. 68 degrees for the overnight low tonight. It's going to be partly cloudy conditions throughout the day. Tomorrow, but a bit warmer. 93 degrees, 72 for the overnight low, 94, 74 on Monday. Tuesday, we have remnants of Beryl moving in, and it will be 92, 73. Tuesday, Wednesday, 83, 71, 88, 70 on Thursday. Wednesday is going to be the day that I think the real mass of Beryl arrives. 89, 70 by next Friday. Let me quickly go here to the big map here, show you down here in the Gulf of Mexico. Pretty much now centered is the remnants of what was Hurricane Beryl. They do predict it will
strengthen back up
to a Category 1. However, it has been severely degraded. A lot of wind shear, a lot of other forces working on it, and it's going to come in probably somewhere between Corpus Christi and Houston is what the most recent, but it has turned decidedly to the north. That kind of works against it. And, the more time it spends over water, the greater opportunity it has to reorganize, but it has been shredded. So it's but a remnant of what it was. It will, they're predicting perhaps it might get back to 90-mile-an-hour winds before it makes landfall. This would be
dose.
That would be Monday. No, it would still be a 1.
Still be a 1?
Yep. So before it makes landfall Monday afternoon. And those are going to track on into Middle Tennessee, coming up into the Nashville, Middle Tennessee area. As you can see, there are a few rain showers around the U.S. Here this week, we have received 0.14 of an inch this week and 1,500s this week, 1,400s this month. That is to say that Sunday was still June. So
yes,
that's why the week measurement is greater than the month measurement, 30.33 here at the Green Room, live from Bates Nursery and Garden Center to talk to you about your gardening things. Weather should not be the issue today.
Nope.
If you have an issue. There's always issues that can arise in life.
Is. It's kind of dry. We could use this rain. I mean, honestly.
We can use some rain. Now, I've got paving scheduled to occur this week, which is...
you don't need to water the pavement, Dave.
No, matter of fact, the pavement needs to be dry before you apply new pavement, especially at...
or it ends up like Briley Parkway.
Well, probably, if I get forced into it, I'll just say, no thanks.
Hang on.
We'll pass.
Yep.
So... we're going to get good conditions, even if we have to wait.
By the way, there's on the way into the green room this morning, there is a person traveling westbound in the eastbound lanes of Briley Parkway.
Oh, not good.
No. So be careful out there.
It's you can never be too careful in life, but one of the things you don't have to be careful about is the expertise you get on this show. You can rely on it. You can bank on it because we have more than just Josh and I here. We've got our panel of experts. We are, as always, glad to have Caroline Gant aboard. And today we have Ben Trest.
Morning.
Good morning, Ben. Welcome in. Tyler Blankenship across the way. He's the guy who gets us all on the air, keeps us on the air, and he's live.
Good morning.
You see,
He
he's
now
live.
has a Tyler
This
cam,
is
like
the Tyler cam.
official Tyler
He
cam.
is live.
Live commentary.
To this point, he has been questionable, but now we know he is live.
He is live. It's
Anyway,
real.
we're glad to have each of you in studio this morning,
Yep.
and I suspect that people are questioning things going on in their gardens.
People are. There's a lot going on. A lot of questions about transplanting and planting stuff in the wrong spot. So,
Well, you're an expert on that.
So
yes,
am
I am. You guys all know that I love to move stuff. Austin gives me a hard time, but he's not here today to give me a hard time about it. So
He's on double secret assignment this
he's
week.
he lives in Florida now, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, crazy. He went there once and said,
Austin,
I gotta
Florida
stay.
man. Think about it, folks. Okay.
I could see it. I could definitely see it. For sure. All right, so let's just go ahead and get into some questions. We're going to start with dahlias. I forgot about some dahlia bulbs. Should I save them for next year or put them in the ground now?
I would wait until fall. Yeah, I think that'll be your safest bet for dahlias. I think that's kind of standard. So
Yeah, now here's the exception from my take is that look at the bulbs. If they appear to be becoming desiccated, where they're shriveling up, they might not hang on until fall. So you might need to plant them. Now, if you want to circumvent the permanence of going into the ground, you could put them in a container and simply water them throughout the rest of the summer. You'll get vegetative growth. You may or may not get any kind of flowers off of it, but the purpose is to keep it alive. And the other side to that, if you put it in a container, it's going to be really easy to transplant when you get to the fall season. So you might think about doing that. I think that's, but you're going to need to look at them. If it's really looking shriveled, I don't know if you can wait until fall or not. Falls are a good ways off.
yeah, that's true.
Might be time to just go ahead and do it. Yeah, put it in a pot. That's what I was thinking. It'll be happy. It'll come up. All right, let's talk about veggies for a minute.
That would be an
Planting
herb.
a cool.
Well, mint could be considered a veggie, I guess.
It's edible.
It's an herb anyway.
Don't ever
vegetative.
plant it in the ground, y'all.
Ever.
Don't do it. Mine got out of a planter, and now I will never get rid of it. But anyways, back to our question. Planting a cool weather veggie bed. When do I start seeds?
I mean, some people are probably going as early as August.
I would think you pretty much
Or have to be August.
Yeah, because you
So
want to try
soon.
hitting that sweet spot. You know, the growers who grow these vegetable plants that are for fall gardening, many of them are in Michigan, where the summer tends to erode away a lot quicker than it does here. So perhaps by August, they're already having some cooler temperatures. It frequently doesn't happen here until way into October.
yeah.
So you're going to have to, the difficulty with starting those is combating these warm temperatures. How are you going to get them germinated without them flopping on you? Because they really want to bend. You've seen a lot. You're an avid gardener.
Well, sure. And I mean, your house may have to be a temporary holding ground for them, and if it's still hot outside.
You may have to have an air conditioning a greenhouse rather than
The basement would work.
Yeah.
but you got to have
Then
light.
you have to have a light.
got light.
So you got to, you have to put grow lights down there, and that certainly could be done. That might be the easier way to do it if you're going to try to get those cool season plants germinated. So it's certainly a worthwhile endeavor. The good thing about trying it is that the cost of the seeds and a
Right.
little bit of soil is not very much.
No.
So
Or you could do a double, you could try a first batch and then maybe do some
2
direct
weeks
sow
later.
later or
Yeah.
something. Yep.
There
Space
you
it
go.
out.
Yeah, I'm ready for cool weather gardening.
I had to pull.
It's too hot.
I had to pull my cukes. the other
Mine,
day.
mine
just
aren't
got-
doing good either, Josh.
So I'm going to start some more from seed in the bed. See what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah,
I think
I've
I
still
got
got
time.
some seed.
Don't you?
likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it'll be fine. Yeah, I think I need to pull mine and restart. They're
starting to show the heat stress.
Oh, it
Well,
was
mine was-
awful. I mean,
mine was never good.
well, we got some fruit and we did okay. I mean, I think I paid for the seeds, so I mean, I think it's a break even point on that
Yeah,
one.
you'd be all right.
So, but
What's the worst thing that can happen?
they don't cover up. And I think they will.
You're out a couple bucks.
Yeah.
Well, you already got a few.
Well, we
Cucumbers,
actually
so-
got a pretty good pretty good pile, but I mean,
I've only gotten one, and now mine are dead.
and they just burn.
Oh, really?
I mean,
We've
they-
gotten dozens.
Well, look at
Lucky,
you.
but this is the first year we're going up with them, going up off the ground. I don't know if that's helped at all this season.
Mine were covered in spots. I think mine got some kind of fungal thing that just took
Hey,
over
now,
all
I've got
of
an
them.
interesting, fun gardening fact that
Fun fact here.
our friend of the show, Miriam Mims. Hello, Miriam.
Miriam,
Hi,
good
Miriam.
morning.
Renee and I got to spend time last weekend with she and her beau, Bob. And we were walking through the woods doing a little hike, and she was told me about a few years ago how that they looked up and saw a pumpkin hanging out of a tree
Cool.
about 8 feet off the ground.
Uh-huh.
This vine had sprouted, gone up the tree,
Oh.
and produced a single pumpkin, and it was hanging from the
Cool.
tree. So I would love to have seen a picture of that. I think that would have been very cool. But
If you don't see a picture, did it really happen?
I don't dispute Miriam.
No.
I think she's.
I believe this. I
she's
don't think Miriam
reliable.
would make that up.
You have to watch for falling pumpkins then, you know? Kind of put a
That's
out
kind
below.
of I know where I think I know where you went. So I mean, you might have to watch out for falling rocks if nothing else.
Could be
Yeah,
up
could
in
be.
the Mont Eagle area. So it was a very nice opportunity to get away from the heat for a couple of days. If you
Yes.
haven't been to Mont Eagle, it is an oasis in the summertime in particular. It's just incredible how much. I mean, it's literally 20 degrees cooler than it was.
Did you
here.
scoot over to Grootley Lager while you were out there?
I did not. We did make it down to Cowan.
Oh,
So So yeah, it was all good. It was a really good trip.
Mont
Plateau
Eagle is
life.
great. I haven't been there in years, probably like 10, 15 years, but it's gorgeous. Time for another trip, but also time for another question.
Okay.
Black spots on my tomatoes as they are almost ripe. Help me.
I think we're talking about the fruit themselves.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
I mean, it's not a bad idea to add some calcium. You know, every time you do tomatoes, that's going to help with a lot of those fungal issues.
Blossom end rot is always can be a problem, and that's usually a sign of calcium deficiency.
Yeah.
So that's never a bad practice in general when you're planting tomatoes, is to add some additional calcium to the soil. Now, it's a lot of effort is taken to make sure that there's enough calcium in place. Things such as poultry litter and those that are already very high in calcium, so those are good things to add, and are added to many composts.
and I think you might want to pull them just a little earlier. Once they start to
Yeah.
blush, you're going to be okay. I mean,
Yes.
I know they taste better when you leave them on there as long as you possibly
But
can.
they taste bad if they're rotten.
Right.
That's
and
true.
they
They're
get
not going to taste
squishy,
good at all.
yeah,
They're
so-
going to be yuck.
Yeah.
The worst is when you pick a tomato and put your finger through it.
Oh.
because
Yeah.
it's got a
No.
soft
You got to eat it right away.
It happens. I do that. I actually did
Everybody's
that
like
yesterday
wincing right now.
when I was picking my tomatoes. My tomatoes are doing great this year, though. Tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers again, not so much. But let's talk blueberry. My
Okay.
blueberry plant has gotten huge. Is this something we can trim back?
Sure. Yeah, you can trim back blueberries. A lot of times folks will trim back the older canes to try to get some new growth for the next year. But you could easily just leave it alone if you want to get big. But yeah, you can trim them like a hedge. I mean, you can trim them down and
Actually,
shape them nice.
They do make quite a nice
looking
hedge.
bush.
And if you're needing a hedge plant and you've got a sunny area, blueberries are a great consideration for that.
Good
So-
color
Yeah.
in the fall.
That's what I was about to say, Josh. Yeah, they're gorgeous. I haven't gotten any fruit on my blueberries this year.
I haven't either. I think it was hot and wet early.
Okay, so
and
that
it
makes me
kinda-
feel better.
But the key with blueberries, as with anything else that's a fruit producer, if you trim it right after it, you have
They're
either
done.
picked the fruit. If you're not going to pick fruit, you can do it right after it flowers. You'll still get some fruit. But to your point, Ben, about trimming off older, tougher canes, you can really get a lot of regenerative growth by just making a hedge out of it, just cutting it back, let all that new growth come back out. And then if you get it done now, which is, it needs to be done like right away, because that new growth has to have time to flush and to mature and harden off so that it can set bud for next year. And a lot of flowers that would be supposed to come out in the spring get delayed or eliminated because of trimming at the too late in the season.
So now's the time to do it.
You ought to get on with it.
Right
because you
after
got to feed the
harvest.
birds
If
next
you-
year
if you have
anyway,
picked-
right?
It's
Yeah.
true. Yeah. Yes,
and the
you
squirrels.
and all of nature's little
Chipmunks.
critters. Hey, Colin on YouTube says,
Hey,
love
Colin.
the
Hey.
Tyler Cam overlay graphic. Hey, Colin,
You're
I feel like
welcome,
we haven't
Colin.
heard from you in a minute.
Yes. Good to
Missed
hear
you,
from you.
missed you, Colin. And then another comment from Jane Ann Gibbs. My new Bates blueberries from the fall produce some berries. Thank you. So some people out there are getting some. I know, Tyler, you got some, right?
Yes. I had some climax berries, but you know what? They took forever to ripen.
Yep, mine did too.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
so strange. And I kind of cheated this year because here at Bates, we got in some beautiful silver dollar blueberries that were already set fruit and near ripe. So I just enjoyed that harvest as it came in, and I, already planted it, but they were very tart, by the way. I did not think a fruit that big would be that tart still. I thought it would be more mellow.
So you said
Sometimes
that was
it
the
takes a while.
climax?
That was silver dollar.
Oh, ooh, I haven't heard of that one.
My climax has actually been a poor performer. I don't know if it's just where I planted it. Pink lemonade has been really good though.
My pink lemonade has grown really fast. I think my climax blueberry was one of the ones that got mowed down.
Yeah.
So many things mowed down. We got another live question in
Okay.
from Joan Dotson. Will Mexican petunia be invasive? I've heard that they can be so. I need a definitive answer from the pros. And then she also says, love your show.
Definitive.
Thanks, Joan.
All right, you have to speak with great authority. so we
I've
can read
heard
it.
that they will spread.
Yeah, I think so as well.
Yeah, now you're going to what will happen on those. Much like the annual, it's mainly a colorful foliage plant, Secretia, they can survive the winter. But in cold winters, they'll freeze out completely. So it's unlikely they would ever become invasive because there's some winter going to come along that's going to just freeze them out completely. So I mean, if you want to err on the side of extra caution,
Put them in a pot.
put them in a pot
Yeah.
or don't put them out at all.
Well,
I have heard they reseed, though. I haven't grown them because I've heard that they can take over. But I have had some people say they reseed. Now, maybe they thought they were reseeding and they were just coming back from the ground.
You know what they call Mexican petunias in Mexico?
petunias.
Petunias.
What do they call
Brilliant.
all the other petunias?
Yeah, petunias.
Petunias.
They're all petunias
Los petunias.
Because they all survived down
Las
there.
petunias.
because they all keep growing and growing and growing.
Yep.
Las?
Las, yes,
Los?
yes.
Las or los?
Las femeninas petunias.
Sí.
Oh,
Feminine.
wow.
Generally, if it ends in an A, it's a feminine word. So
Okay.
that would be my deduction.
Es verdad.
Little language lesson
No
this morning.
petunias.
Andale.
All right, let's talk
That's
about
an E.
crepe myrtles, y'all.
That's an E.
Should my crepe myrtle be blooming by now? Mine is not.
Mine's
My
not
one
either.
crepe myrtle doesn't have any buds. It is not blooming just yet.
Mine are just opening, or at least in the neighborhood, or just opening.
And you're going to be able to look closely and tell and see the buds that are starting to come up. There's one beside the house next door on the property that got quite a bit of dieback over the winter. It was not dead wooded, but it does have new shoots coming up. It's only just starting to show color, so I would not be alarmed by it. A lot of them are simply a bit delayed just because they got somewhat set back a second year in a row.
Right. Yep. It was a delayed season for sure for
Yep.
crepe myrtle, seems like. Yeah. They had kind of a tough time coming out of the spring, and I think it just pushed everything back a little bit. They're
poor
blooming
little
on the
guys.
lot, but we're usually a couple weeks early with our containerized plants.
I'm
And there's
ready
some
for
of
mine
the-
to bloom.
Yeah, and there's some of the last things to come out.
Well,
anyway.
you know, I've got natches at my yard at home. Of course, they've been in bloom for a month. They tend to flower early. Of course, they're really a tree. They're not really a bush. They get quite large, 30 feet tall. And so when you're going to plant something like that, you need to give proper space consideration to make sure they've got room to grow out so you don't have to be cutting on them all the time.
But you know, one of the best things that you can do for any plant anywhere in your yard, David Bates?
Well, I think it's making the proper preparations
Yes.
before you plant.
So if you want to have your blooms on your crepe myrtles, one of the best things that you can add to it would be what, David?
Well, a good place to start with anything you're
Yes.
growing is Earth Mix Garden products.
Yeah,
And it doesn't matter if you're trying to improve the soil you already have or start off with a premium blend of soil mix that you can just open the bag and put straight into the ground. Earth Mix Garden Products has products for every gardening situation, and that includes indoor plants, Caroline will talk to folks every day, I suspect, about Proganics I. And Proganics I is a peat-free mix. Now, all Earth Mix garden products are peat-free, but what's important about not having peat in an indoor mix is that there's these little creatures called fungus gnats, and they don't really cause problems with the plants, but boy, are they annoying.
Yes.
And so if you can rid yourself of that, why not do it? Proganics I uses coconut coir as its one of the substrates in there, and it doesn't have peat at all, so there's no fungus gnats. You don't have that issue whatsoever. The one thing that all Earth Mix products also have in common is the fact they're 100% organic. They are all blended and made right here in Nashville, Tennessee. And they're available throughout the area. If you go over to earthmix.net, you'll see that area is expanding.
Bam.
We're way over here. We want to say good morning to the Victory Gardens Nursery folks over there in Meridian, Idaho, just south of Boise. So good morning over there. And we're as far east as Garden by Teresa B. Bryant over in North Carolina and in Burnsville, North Carolina. So maybe if you're there, northern Alabama, there's Rudy's in Huntsville area, all over Middle Tennessee. You can put your address into this box and get turn-by-turn directions for the location nearest you, or simply just zoom in and...
You can scroll down as well if you want to see listings by state.
I mean, do it this way, get off the map, so it'll show you by area, by city, by state, so you can
and
do
it'll show you what blends are at what location.
Yeah. And if you've got questions, you can ask them there. And if, in case you are perhaps a dealer that is,
you
wanting,
want some?
Dealer inquiries are right there in the top right corner. You can simply click on there, and we'll be in touch with you. If you don't know how much you need, the soil calculator feature is a very handy little feature that can help you just figure out, I need only 7 bags. I don't need 10 bags. I only need 7.
You don't need a bulk bag?
Eventually, you'll need 10.
Eventually, you'll need 10.
Go ahead and get 10.
As long as you can keep it in a relatively cool, dry place, it won't go bad.
No.
But Earth Mix was formulated not simply to be organic and not simply to be a locally produced product, but to give you the most viable and productive soils and amendments that you can use in your garden. It prevents a vast array of issues by creating that environment that your plants can grow and do well in. There is a whole plethora, and I'm sure you're aware of, growing medias, potting soils, all that on the market. Earth Mix takes it to a level that others don't bother to get to. It's a very high quality product. We're very proud to be able to offer that here in the Middle Tennessee area. So check it out for all the dealers and all of the folks at findearthmix.net. And you can find out about each individual product. Just go to the products tab there, and they'll tell you all about each individual product. Remember, this success in gardening begins at the ground level when you use Earth Mix garden products.
That's all you need.
We appreciate you giving us a moment to talk about that and to help you in your gardening efforts. We really strive to take the work out of it and increase the success. It gives you time to do other things.
Yes, it does.
So,
Speaking of doing other things,
Do we
with
want
some new person.
Do we want to talk about
What's in bloom?
What's in bloom?
with Ben?
Ben,
Take it away, Ben.
Hey guys, it's hot, but the blooms are loving it.
Oh,
And honestly, with the little bits of rain we've had, the blooms have been sticking. I've noticed a lot of our spring blooms kind of got washed out with rain, and now we're having a lot of really sturdy blooms in the garden. And to me, the star is like prairie perennials, sun perennials are just going bonkers right now, as well as annuals from seed. So like just from my little garden, I mean, I've got zinnias coming up,
Yeah, baby.
sunflowers
Love 'em.
on the way, coneflower, no problem. Catmint is kind of going through its second bloom season. So all just tough, really sun, heat tolerant, drought tolerant perennials. we're loaded up with grasses here. I don't know. I think technically you would call it a bloom. It's a seed head.
It
It's a
is.
bloom. Yeah.
But they've been bred
The
to have
floofy stuff.
Yeah, they've had all sorts of color. I mean, this is probably redhead. Is that what this one is?
That one is Cassian.
Cassian. Oh, well,
Yep.
it's got a nice red pink
Then we've got
hue to
Ginger
it.
Love right here.
Ginger love. That's what I was
Oh, I
thinking.
gave
And
our
you can see
We
it.
will-
Susan plant away. Yeah, we'll come back to that.
We'll
then.
come back to it in what's in broom here in a little bit.
What you can make a broom out of.
Yes. What's in broom?
Maiden grass. So the grasses are doing great right now. Magnolias are still holding some blooms. I'm even seeing some spring blooming magnolias. Try to throw a few sporadic ones on. Shrubs, hydrangeas, still going strong. Your panicle hydrangeas, I mean, just
Love it.
not even starting to hardly turn pink yet. They're still full white. They should be fully open, your hydrangeas right now. Vitex, one of our
Mine's in full bloom.
kind of
Gorgeous.
underutilized, almost like a giant butterfly bush, really. is what
Yes,
it looks
that's
like.
what I always say.
It's a bit more fragrant. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
And then our late season ones are starting. I mean, like Abelia. I really like Abelia. They're just starting to kind of put on buds
now,
for their fall.
Abelia.
I'll be
later.
later.
Good one. Is that it?
I mean, there's probably
There's
some more. We
so
could go through
much.
all of the sun perennials. Leatris.
Oh yeah, mine looks great right now.
Yep.
And that makes a great dried flower too. If you're into dried flowers, that one mixed with eucalyptus. I don't even put mine in water. I just stick them in a vase with no water. They dry and then they look like they're still fresh.
I
Very
think
cool.
Lee
Yeah.
Atris was a
Gorgeous.
former neighbor of mine.
Huh.
Lee
Atris.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Atris's
Oh.
boy, yeah.
Be a good name right there. Well, let's get back to questions because
Yeah,
we
boy.
do have a flower question, something that
Okay.
is in bloom right now. And it's back around to our first question we had this morning about dahlias. I thought dahlias had to be lifted for the winter. You mentioned planting them in the fall. I am confused.
Well,
And that came from Joyce Hooks on Facebook.
it's a good question, Joyce.
Yeah,
That is a great question.
If you have a moisture spot, and I leave my dahlias in the ground through the winter because I'm just, I'm
Not gonna
not
do it.
I'm not selling cut flowers. If one of them kind of has an issue over the winter, I'm not too concerned about it. Ideally, if you want to keep all of your dahlias and have the best chance, you can dig them up and bring them inside, and then if you do have a wet spot where they're growing, they're less likely to rot over the winter. And I think that's
So,
the big concern.
I think rot's a lot
Clarify
more
that for me,
concern than
yeah.
freeze
right,
damage.
right.
So you want them in a wet spot or not?
You don't want them in a wet spot. So if you're growing your dahlias in a spot that tends to be low and wet, I would consider digging them up.
And the price of dahlia bulbs is
Yes.
something to consider.
It's
with
crazy
this.
high.
Yes. So.
And what you might consider doing is only if you can mark them well enough, is just dig up part of them. And that way you kind of hedge your bet, so to speak, so that you're more assured of at least having some that make it through if you have that level of concern. So there's more than one school of thought on that, and there's more than one approach, and there's not anyone that is definitively wrong or right, except you don't want to plant them in a wet spot.
Yeah. And I mean, you can divide them when you dig them up. So if you're just looking to get more and more and spread them, that's a good opportunity to dig them up, divide them, and then you put them in
Share 'em with
pretty
Josh.
early in the season in the spring.
With Josh. Mail some
yeah.
to Josh.
Yeah.
It is that horticultural mathematics conundrum: to multiply, you must divide.
Oh boy.
That's right. Too
Doing
bad
that.
Austin wasn't here. He likes dahlias. You know what he doesn't like? Rudbeckia, which we got a question from Colin on YouTube. Colin says,
Great
since
timing.
Austin isn't here, I saw some Rudbeckia that was stunning, and that is in all caps. Truly, how bad will it spread? I want to put some in my cottage garden, which is wildy, but I don't want it to choke out other plants. I love it. Mine stays fairly contained. It does spread. It reseeds, but they're really, really easy to pull up. I know Austin's biggest thing is he had to pull it up as a child, so he's
boy.
traumatized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But mine grows really thick. I have to pull
That
some
does
up so it
explain a lot,
doesn't.
by the way.
It does, yeah. That's why he hates it.
I don't like it.
I pull it up if it starts to spread into some of my other plants. I'll pull it up early in the season, but it's really easy to control and it's great. Like it competes with grass. It pretty much beats it. Every so often I've got like one piece of grass that comes up, but mine is so dense at this point, and I'll get a picture maybe next week because it's
Very
about to
good.
be in full bloom. That Colin, plant it. Don't listen to Austin.
Well, and I mean,
He's not here.
maybe be selective about your varieties. There are some varieties of coneflower, like our Tennessensis. Some of the more wild ones will get big fast, and they will start to kind of drape over other plants. So, if you just... Magnus is a pretty common big one, and a lot of our newer varieties don't reseed as much, and they stay a lot smaller, so they're not going to just dwarf all the rest of your plants. So maybe a little bit selective in which species or varieties.
We know when they are young, all plants appear to be dwarf.
Isn't that true?
But
Works for
you
people
really
too, yeah.
Yes, you need to have that kind of insider information to help you negotiate all that. And and when you're having these tiered gardens where you have tall things in the back and shorter things in the front, it's one of those mistakes that's really easy to make, and that's part of what we tried to do here is to give you that information so you can avoid some of those mistakes.
Colin, I've got some experience with Rudbeckia as well, and there's one that's called Autumn Fire that I planted, and I surely thought that my raspberries were going to choke it out because I planted those in the same raised bed as my raspberries. Well, it survived. It somehow reseeded itself outside of the planter. So now it just basically unplanted itself from that position, and it's continuing to thrive. Now that variety is not, I would say, like your typical looking black-eyed Susan. So it's a little bit less aggressive and also has a different color and a bigger bloom. And there's so many different varieties in that type of plant, that species of plant, that you can really find something that is not as aggressive as just the straight up kind, which my neighbor planted, and it is everywhere in my yard, and I just kind of let it come up in places. And
That's what I've got. Mine is the straight up.
Yeah.
And it's great. Again, it's easy to pull up if you don't want it to spread.
But you'll be mowing it with the rest
Just
of your
do it.
yard.
Which is fine. Then
Yeah.
you'll never know it was there. Hey, we got another live question in from Pat on Facebook. My ornamental plum is oozing sap. Ooh. It looks terrible, as does the other ones up and down my street. Someone suggested this might be black knot.
Rot.
I think it was supposed to be rot, but it says not, so I'm reading it as it is written.
There is a black knot
Can you
fungus,
please tell me how to treat this? So it is black knot.
Yeah, black knot, usually you're going to see that on the stems. And I mean, I guess they could be conflated with each other. But the black knot, usually we're going to actually see knots on the stems. And I guess you could see it on the trunk, but this seems to be kind of typical with all of our prunus species with heat.
And they are notoriously short life trees. And when you begin seeing this, it is the early indications that the end is near. And that doesn't mean this year or even next year, but it will get worse.
Right.
And you can, so ultimately the treatment becomes a chainsaw, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I mean, I've heard the sap related to basically, like a scab on your body. It's the tree trying, it's the white blood cells of the tree trying to kind of heal over a wound.
And it's a wound that really won't heal.
Right.
And if you've seen people who have, circulatory problems, that's essentially what it is. And they just are unable to repair their own damage, and there are weaknesses in the species. And you either accept that on the front end and know you're going to be replacing it in a few years, or you choose something else.
Yeah. I would
Sounds
check.
like a lot of them.
Yeah, I would check mulch levels around. I mean, just, if you have other issues, rot or something, damage at the base. So make sure you don't have other stuff going on, like excessive mulch.
String trimmers
string trimmer damage.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I know all about that. And you do too.
Oh, I've done it.
Your form of boxwood at my house got string trimmed down.
Oh, I've had to hang my head.
Samara Dixon on YouTube commented, I love Rudbeckia. They haven't really spread for me, but I wouldn't be mad about it. They are so dependable for blooming and color.
They're
So true.
They're basically bulletproof.
They're
too.
bulletproof.
Yeah.
They're great.
Who would shoot at them
I
anyway?
love it.
I don't know, but I mean,
Yeah, who would?
That'd be kind of
Austin.
fun.
Austin would shoot at him. He absolutely would.
birdshot. Okay.
He's not here to talk about why he hates it, and that's okay. Hey, let's move on to talking about hydrangeas. We got quite a few hydrangea questions in today. First up is pruning tips for a young hydrangea, leafy but no blooms.
Leafy but no blooms. I wouldn't put on any extra nitrogen because you're just going to push foliar growth. Leafy but no blooms. I guess it depends on which variety of hydrangea. My guess would be is it's a macrophylla, some sort of a
And they're
big
wondering
leaf.
specifically on pruning tips for that.
Okay, yeah. So if it's a macrophylla, big leaf hydrangea, sometimes we just have bud break in the spring, and if your buds freeze in the spring, you're just kind of out of luck for the season for a lot of these that bloom on old growth only. So really with that, I would tend to leave it. Because if you're doing pruning, there's a risk that it won't set those buds on in time for spring. So if it's a big leaf hydrangea with the blues or the reds or the purple blooms, I would leave it be for at least another year, and let it at least try to get some blooms on it before you do any trimming.
High phosphate fertilizer. That's the
Yeah.
middle number is big, and as Ben was advising, don't put anything that's got an excessive amount of nitrogen.
The first
especially things that are high in ammoniacal nitrogen, which is ammonium nitrate. That
Yeah,
means
boy.
it's going to flash quick, and that, as Ben was also saying, induces that vegetative growth, which you don't want. You're wanting it to
want the
grow more.
blooms.
You want it to grow more slowly, not to push more growth.
How about best time to transplant a hydrangea?
Not now.
Nope.
Ideally, when the weather starts, nighttime temperatures start getting below 70 degrees would be great. So a
about
Wait
couple
for the
months.
fall.
September.
And then how about this? I planted a hydrangea in too much sunlight. Suggestions for creating shade until I transplant it this fall.
Don't let Mrs. Carey come over because she won't let you put shade out there because it's going to be ugly and it's going to be right on the front of the
Oh,
house.
no.
That's another
Don't
battle.
Ask Diana about it, okay?
Josh,
Trust
I
me.
think your hydrangea will be okay, though. It might
I think
suffer a
so.
little bit, but it'll be fine.
It may look rough for a while, but
Right.
it will survive.
Yeah,
She
that's
won't.
like my hosta that I put accidentally in hot afternoon sun.
Yeah, I
and they
called her
looked
out.
terrible, but I transplanted them in the fall, and now they're huge, and I have to divide them because they've gotten so big.
And keep the water on them. I mean,
Oh,
if they go dry, and they're not liking the sun, it's just going to be double trouble. So make
Double
sure to
trouble.
still keep them watered, even though they look like they're suffering.
We are seeing little babies, new leaves, and some new growth
Oh,
on it. So
look at
that's
that.
But she still wouldn't let me put the sunshade over.
No sunshade. So is that what
just
you would
park your car in
suggest?
front of it.
This person asking how to create shade while they wait for the fall. I mean, we've got sunshade that you can put up. You'll have to
You
hang
can
it
even
on
get an
something.
umbrella over it if you have a
You could
patio
stand
umbrella.
there, hottest time of the day, just hold that umbrella over
I
your
would be
plants.
inclined to just not worry about it.
And just,
Yeah.
It's not going to kill it. It may make it look really, really rough,
Yeah.
but it won't kill it.
All right. Yep, that's what I was saying. And final hydrangea question so far this morning. General tips for hydrangea care.
See, and that's a loaded question.
It is
right
very
there.
loaded.
The biggest thing I've been getting lately is black spots on the leaves, which they have big old leaves. They like to hold those water drops on the leaves. So keep that water off the leaves whenever we're irrigating. We don't have rain. Keep the water off the leaves of the hydrangea. Especially if you're watering late in the day at night. Try to do it early in the day, but if that water sits on those leaves, it'll just eat them up.
And that's more specific to the macrophylla cultivars, the garden
Yeah.
hydrangeas, than the Annabelle or oak leaves. Those that are much more sun tolerant.
Yeah.
It's less of an issue on those. They don't have those big juicy leaves. They're tougher because they are out in the sun.
Yeah, and it lets it dry off. About the only time I've seen them on like an oak leaf is if they were getting watered like as the sun was going down.
And a lot of times that happens when people have irrigation systems and they're
sure.
convinced that they've got the irrigation system and we're going to use it. And I like to watch it run in the late afternoon going into night, which is bad timing.
No
I've
good.
hidden all the spray nozzles and I've changed them out to all the wands
Oh yeah,
so you can put your water.
that
in
way
it.
you can stand up straight and get to the bottom of the plant still.
That was a secondary reason, but that works good too.
Well, if you're wondering about specific hydrangeas or just learning about them, we have Bates Nursery has multiple Bates Botanical Boot Camp webinars on hydrangeas. I think we have Hydrangeas 101. Austin does pruning all different types of hydrangeas. I mean, it can be tricky because it depends on the variety where you're going to put it, but I would say they're pretty easy if you pick the right spot. So if you know enough about the hydrangea that you are buying, put it in the right spot, water it correctly, They're pretty easy plants, which I have to transplant some this fall, and so does Josh, but that's okay.
Matter of fact, there are so many Bates Nursery Botanical Boot Camp webinars out there that there's one on almost any subject you can think of. And if you want to find out where those are, you can actually go to batesnursery.com, our website, and scroll down to the bottom, and all that information is down there. It's just a bunch of stuff that's kind of buried on the site. You can also go to YouTube and go to Bates Nursery and search it that way. A lot of information, long form videos. These are not these 30-second shorts. Many of them are more than 30 minutes. And we entertain studio viewer questions while they are being live broadcast. So there's that. There's also a wealth of other information on batesnursery.com, including our entire inventory that's updated in real time. And we've been doing that for more than 20 years now, so it's hardly a new thing. But all the things we have are shoppable right there online. And what you also have access to, I've got a newsletter, Josh. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I do. I get it every Thursday.
And
except for last week, I got it on Wednesday.
And a lot of other people, thankfully, are interested in receiving that also. Approaching 33,000 individuals, which we appreciate the interest and the people who continue to read that. And what we try to do, and you can, by the way, if you want to just get it on the newsletter, you can just scroll right down and put your name, email address, and check that you want it, and click on the box for subscribe, and you're good to go. But what you're going to get there is the latest word on everything that we deem to be important to be thinking about horticulturally this time of year, and also the first word on all the special things we've got going on right now. And that's today is Saturday if you're watching us live. It is our big Labor Day weekend special. It actually goes through the end of business on Thursday next week. 15% off everything
For 4th of July.
And beyond.
All the way through Thursday of next week. 15% off of everything. That excludes gift cards and deliveries, but beyond that, it includes everything else. Trees, shrubs, ground covers, ornamental grasses, pottery, soils, bulk in the bag. It doesn't matter. Across the board, 15% off everything. So everything. So come out and see us. We've gotten a little break from the heat. Still warm, but it's more seasonable now. So we've got more rain in the forecast. You can really have an excellent opportunity to come out, save money, have great success, and see our vast selection. You can also admire our upcoming pavement project. I know there's a lot of interest in that. Well, I'll be glad. Maybe this time next week we'll have some.
They give a tour and they can show you where the forms are. I mean, that's great, man.
That's where the pavement is. Anyway, so we're working on all that. We've got some other little small refinements we're making as well. So we appreciate your patience and working with us on that here at Bates Nursery and Garden Center, where we have been beautifying Nashville since 1932. And my grandmother that you see on the graphic there, she got things started way back in the day. And I think she would be pretty amazed at what we've been able to do together. And it's a whole lot more than just me. It's I've got quite a cast of characters, some of whom are here in studio and a whole lot others outside the room. We want to thank everyone for their efforts to help us continue to do what others simply are not able to do, and that's to give you the most diverse selection of plants and the highest quality expertise to help to assure you get success with whatever you're growing. So no matter who you're talking with here at Bates Nursery, we're going to help you get that information and assure you of it being worth the drive from anywhere. And
it is worth the drive.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Man.
So come out and see us. We're open from 9 until 4 o'clock today. It's summertime. We are closed on Sundays through the summer season, but we invite you to come out and see us Monday through Saturday, 9 to 4. And check out our website, batesnursery.com. Bates Nursery and Garden Center, beautifying Nashville since 1932. So thank you for giving us a moment to talk about that. Invite you to come see us.
Real fast, I do want to do a shout out to Emily and Steve, who I met earlier this week, and then they came back out. I believe they came from Clarksville, and they said it's worth the drive. They watch the show every Saturday morning. They get their coffee ready. It was a pleasure meeting you and talking to you guys. Y'all bought a lancifolia. We talked a lot about problems with phlox and vinca, so love meeting people when they come out to the nursery.
And speaking of shout outs, I got to give a shout out to my classmates, the class of 1974 Maplewood High School. We had our 50th. Gosh, is that
Bunch of scamps they were.
50th? Yes, we were. Yes, I sat right next to one last night, and we talked extensively about it. Best we can remember. We survived. Not everybody has.
They had a jukebox in the cafeteria, for pity's sake.
We had a jukebox, and the Frankenstein played, the 8.5 minute version of it played near repeatedly.
That's an old band for all you youngins out there. They were pretty good.
The Edgar Winter Group. So, yeah. Anyway, great to see everyone last night. Thoroughly enjoyed that time. And, it's good to still be on this side of the grass.
Yeah, and inside the grass.
Yes.
What's
Between
in
the
the room
grass.
with Caroline?
We did grasses today, y'all. They are blooming right now. I know if Austin was here, he'd be talking about corn, and then he'd be like, it's a grass, and it's the best one. So I brought in all grasses today, all different types. I love grasses. Little shout out to Bridget, our perennial gal,
Bridget,
who knows everything about grasses. I mean, I could talk with her about grass all day. Her face lights up as soon as you ask her a grass question. It's amazing. But just to give you a pretty quick rundown on everything we've got in here. In the corners, we've got, I believe that's Blue Bayou. It is a type of switchgrass. And then right in front of the TV, we've got totem pole switchgrass, which I tried to find Northwind, but it's so good. We were fully sold out of it, probably because Austin talks it up all the time, and so do I. I love Northwind. I've also got Totem. It's great as well. Then I brought these in for Ben, which are a little bit hard to see. But right under our logo is Grandma grass. David's going to bring it up.
Oh, David's bringing it up.
There it is. Can we see it?
Yes, we can.
Little dancing. They look like little mustaches. How could you not like this grass?
Or little eyebrows.
so
Or
cool.
little eyebrows. I know Ben is going to plant some, I believe. I mean, you said you wanted to. I don't know if you actually are going to.
I have a former muley grass bed.
Oh, gross. I mean,
as many
if
people
you
may.
like it, then I planted it. I was not a fan of growing it. I like how it looks. But in front,
muley
again,
sass.
more grasses. We've got switchgrass down in front. I believe that's Shenandoah. We've got a couple different fountain grass. We already talked about Cassian. One nice
We
thing
didn't
about
see Cassian, though.
Let's show it off then.
Yep.
One nice thing about grasses is they're great for cut flower arrangements, the blooms and also just the blades. Like I use both of them. They last for a really, really long time. Fantastic. We've got a couple different types of blue stem. We've got chameleon little blue stem. We've got some big blue stem. And then finally on our Lazy Susan, our feature plant, or as we call it, our hot plate. It might be kind of hard to see,
And we
but
got the seed heads in there.
Fountain.
we've got ginger love fountain grass. I remember back in 2020 when we were getting these in, they were selling like hotcakes. We were putting them out in front of checkout to display with them. They would be gone within minutes. People were just buying them like crazy. But yeah, it's all grasses today, y'all, because grasses are fantastic. And at this point, that's all I want to grow.
So I've got an anecdote about switchgrass.
Do you? Let's go.
I dug some up this spring at my wife's school. Bunch of switchgrass, overgrown. They're afraid they're going to lose their children in the playground. And instead of dumping it, I just threw it on the ground out in the yard. And those are 3 foot tall, unplanted switchgrass. So they are tough as nails, which may be a benefit or a concern.
You literally did not dig a hole.
I did not dig a hole. There's root balls on the soil, and
they
those
just
things are
rooted
3
it.
foot
So now
tall.
you have a natural mound that has been created. So you, at most, you might throw some dirt in between, or to
Maybe
fill
I'm holding
in.
off it. I mean, they haven't shown.
I thought maybe you might want to plant something in between it later on or whatever. But
he got those for free. Keep that in mind, folks.
He did.
I'm not saying for you to do it, but it just shows how drought tolerant and rugged and the root system.
And this
they'll
was
just
what
grow
time?
anywhere.
This was what time when you did this? Was
In the spring.
In the spring. So wait, March or April?
This was probably April.
Yeah.
They were just starting to push.
So you got it done it when there was still enough rain happening naturally. So your timing could be off, and your results might vary.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But those roots, I think they will search through
They
to get to
will
the soil
find
fast.
the
Okay.
They
soil,
are
find the water.
determined. They are quite determined.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. You gave me some of that, and mine is doing great. I actually split it into, I think I've got 8 grasses that I've planted
Yeah.
everywhere.
Pretty
So-
trouble free.
So far,
So far.
Yes, so far. We did get a question about transplanting grasses, which is great to bring up now. Transplanting big blue stem that has been in the ground for 5 years, is this doable?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, really, I mean, ideally you wouldn't do it right now. Out of all the plants you could transplant right now, grasses would probably take it in the
Yep.
heat if you just water it when you transplant it. But the root system on grasses can be pretty good, so getting it out is probably going to be
Gnarly.
the hard part.
Yeah.
the transplanting in this time of year is so critical about timing, and and I frequently mention, and we have over the years talked about this many times.
Yes.
Josh, is go dig the hole first where you're transplanting to, and what that does is that reduces significantly the amount of time you're going to have this root ball
Out of the
ground, because you're going to want to dig that hole, do whatever soil preparation you're going to do, dig the plant up, move it straight over, backfill it, and water it. I mean, drown it immediately.
Yep.
Now, if you do those things and do it in successive order and do it without stopping to take a iced tea break
Or talk to the neighbor.
or talk to the,
That's so tempting, though.
Yes.
it is tempting.
And it's not the same as a container grown plant.
No,
So
because
be
the root
very, very-
systems
don't confuse yourself.
Yeah, the root systems don't get cut or even
Right.
mildly disturbed on a container. But when you're digging it out of the ground, you can have success.
Yes.
But when you're cutting those roots, it's very much a timing issue, and particularly if you're planting from a sun area to a sun area where it's just, it's rough. You might even consider trying to shift it off to either to the early morning activity or the late afternoon, where you don't have the middle of the day 100-degree heat blazing down.
Water the hole, too. I mean,
that does not hurt either.
You may have to water before you start digging if the ground is too dry.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah.
Do everything you can
Yeah.
to stack the deck in your favor and hope it's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let's get to some photos, Tyler, if you're able to go
Uh-oh.
ahead and put the so fast. All right, so
look
these
at
come
it. Wow,
from
look at
Sheila,
that.
which also sent in a live question about her hydrangea, but the email says, are these limelights that are finally bloomed ready for trimming to avoid the big droop later in the season? Do I,
I don't
just
know that those are going to droop.
Do I
don't
just
either.
trim below the blooms? And that comes from Sheila.
If they haven't drooped yet in the storms that we've had,
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I don't know.
Yeah. My take on them is cut them hard when you cut them, because they flower on the current year wood, not the previous year wood. Those particular types. So, let them. If you cut them hard, you're going to produce these short, multiple. You're going to have more flowers. Now they may be smaller in size because you are producing more
get 'em.
flowers. There's only X amount of energy that each plant has, so you can't get more energy out of it. What you can get is more breaks, which produces more, but somewhat smaller flowers. And those are much more resilient at resisting the flopping.
Floppy.
But those don't look like they're in danger of it at all. And again, if they haven't done
No,
it
that looks
already,
fantastic.
so I would wait until after. I would enjoy them all the way until the end of enjoyment. They look like they're still
It's like
really
some pretty
just
spirea right by them, too.
Yeah. Good work, Sheila. That looks
Yep.
great.
Very
And then
nice.
our next email comes from a friend of Josh, I believe. It says, a blank slate. They like orange. West is to the left of the image. So they're looking at what to fill in this bed. What could they plant there? They like orange. West is to the left.
That's an odd color. That's an
In the
uncommon color, orange.
He's a big UT fan.
Ah,
It's a
that
good thing
makes
Austin's
sense.
not here, too. He doesn't like orange that much.
Well, and I can see
certain
where
situations.
Austin would probably say that rail looks like a great spot for a clematis.
Yeah, he might say that.
Or
You're
cross.
right.
the question
yeah.
I have is, what direction does this house face? Is that
The west is to
West
the
is to the left of the image.
west is to the left of the image,
More
so it's
southeast.
south
So this is
facing.
south.
Then.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you're gonna get plenty of sun.
Big overhang.
Big
but
overhang.
not gonna affect the
Porch.
sun.
You know,
Do you like the way that they hung the hanging plants from the bottom of the deck above? Is that unusual?
It's,
Oh, it looks good.
Uh-huh.
you might consider putting a little wire on them, extending them down just a little bit. They'll show up a little better.
But what can they plant there?
I mean,
though? That's the question.
echinacea. So I mean,
Echinacea.
there are some very very orange varieties. Now that'll be a perennial, so that'll be lower.
You
Yeah.
could do,
You could do that
trumpet
towards the
creeper
front.
if you wanted to put some trellis, because those can become invasive and overgrow. But that's another orange. Flame creeper azaleas if you want something that flowers.
Well, there you go,
Oh,
yeah.
there you go. I
Yep.
planted 6 of those.
Up
this
under
spring.
that deck.
Some of the encore azaleas do have an orange color. You have to really make sure you get the right one. But
Now,
some of those,
my favorite azalea of all time is, and it's more difficult to come up with, is called Fashion, and it's kind of a peachy orange. So it's
Yeah.
a softer orange, but it's a beautiful shrub even when it's not in bloom. So that's one of its best qualities and attributes. So,
Jan says coneflowers. Yeah, I think that's a good put
Yeah.
in there, pop the color.
and of course, as Austin will also be quick to hit this, the regular old Tennessee volunteer hemerocallis, just daylilies.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
are,
Oh, yeah.
they are orange flowering, and you really don't have to do much of anything to
sure.
them.
And if you put maybe some white hydrangeas behind that, you got your
Oh, your
orange and your
UT
white.
colors.
You could do it in a checkerboard if you needed to.
There to the right.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Nice. All right, let's get a few more questions in. Planted 2 clethra on Sunday. They are in 4 to 6 hours of sun, watered every day in the morning. Now they are brown and crispy. This sounds like the New Jersey tea plant you gave me for my birthday, Ben.
Yeah,
That
I mean-
one stem at a time, it started going brown and crispy. It's still alive. It still has some
I mean,
green.
I think some things were planted right as soon as our heat went. Oop,
Yeah.
and it is hard to know how much to water, and I feel like sometimes we're just not saturating. If you have that soil starting to get little cracks in it, it takes a lot.
You know, it's easy for people to they think, I've watered it every day. I'm watering it first thing in the morning every day. But the diagnosis and the understanding of what watering actually is very tough. And I'm not saying that this is what has happened, but I'm saying this is what I've seen happen. Many occasions is people will, first of all, if you've got one of those pistol grip nozzles on the end of your garden hose,
Throw it away.
Throw it away. It's for washing the car.
Yep.
Don't water shrubs with it.
Nope.
One of those rain shower nozzles is perfectly okay, or this little thing right here on the end works really well.
Or this.
You've got to. Thumb's not as good.
Thumb's not as good?
No, I like the forefinger. Anyway,
I do thumb. I'm with you, Josh.
Okay.
and those are totally preferential things, where you have better control. But the thing of it is you want to get enough water on there so that you soak it all the way through to the lowest roots. Now, if you do that, it cannot possibly need watering every day. And that's when I hear people talk about watering every day and something's gotten dry. What I visually imagine is that they're wetting this much of the
foliage.
ground
Yep.
down every day, and it's drying out. So they believe that they're watering it a lot.
Right.
They're watering it frequently, but they're not watering it sufficiently.
Sure.
Ben was on the show once before, and he explained the water at the hydrostatic pressure, the way that you were explaining it
Yeah.
with the sponge. If you have that really hard pan clay soil, like everyone in
If your
Tennessee,
bed's just dry,
if it's just dry,
It's gonna
you might want to give it a sprinkle first, and then let it soak in. That
it'll
way.
suck that water away from the plant a little quicker.
And again, doing proper soil preparation in advance of planting goes a long way towards helping your plants to be able to make that transition from the container root ball that they're in when you purchase them through that growing media into the native soil that's around them. So it's that's always the thing that I think that it's the most difficult to articulate and help people to understand it. Watering should be one of those almost a meditative type things. You cannot water quickly. You must do it slowly and methodically, and it must be multiple times back over. If you have a row of say 5 plants, you water each one of them until it begins to run off and move to the next, and then you repeat.
Yep.
And then you do that multiple times.
yeah.
So there's that. God, where'd that hour go?
I don't
it
know.
went fast.
My goodness
It
gracious.
was gone.
Well,
So, but hey, you know what? Next Saturday, we're going to come back and do another hour.
That's right.
And you can watch all of these hours anytime you want to on YouTube.
We got a bunch of hours out there.
There's a bunch of hours out there, and you just interact. Hey, if you're on social media, any of the platforms, like, share, tell everybody about us, because we'll interact with you alive here on the Gardening Inside Out show. You can reach us during the week to send pictures in at gardeninginsideout@gmail.com. That really helps us out with diagnosis sometime. Hey, it's going to be a glorious day to get inside or outside and garden. So come back next Saturday, and we'll give you some more fun, frivolity, information.
Yeah, all that.
All that stuff. See you next Saturday.